Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am just popping on here to review one of the 3 films I've seen in the last few months. I have seen a few films, and this is going to be the first one I'm reviewing, not only because it's the first one of the 3 I've watched, but also because it's the quickest review I'm going to give, even though it was the longest movie so far this year. And that was Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I was really looking forward to this movie. It's definitely on my most anticipated, and my husband and I saw it together. It is rated PG-13. It is 2 hours and 50 minutes long. It was directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Producers Tom Cruise and Jake Myers. The release date was May 23rd, 2025, with a budget of $300 to $400 million. The overview is Ethan Hunt and the IMF team race against time to find an entity, a rogue artificial intelligence that can destroy mankind. It stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, Haley Atwell as Grace, Palm Clementif, I'm so sorry if I said it wrong, as Paris, Ving Rhames as Luther, Simon Pegg as Benji, and Isaiah Morans as Gabriel. Sorry if I butchered his name as well. I really like this film. However, I watched Mission Impossible growing up, but my husband and I really enjoyed Dead Reckoning Part 1, which I think has changed back to just Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, since this is not Dead Reckoning Part 2. This is the Final Reckoning, so I think that changed the name of Dead Reckoning to just Dead Reckoning. Anyway, we really loved that one. We watched it in IMAX. How else do you watch a Tom Cruise movie but on IMAX? And it was awesome. I didn't see as many trailers. I really enjoyed that this year. I am not really watching trailers. In fact, I think these 3 movies, I did not really watch trailers. I didn't know what was going on in most of them, and it's definitely made the viewing experience a lot better for me. So I may actually just start avoiding trailers. If I were to compare the 2, I definitely enjoyed Dead Reckoning a lot better than Final Reckoning. I think that big stunt, because he always does big stunt, that Tom Cruise does in Dead Reckoning was a lot more built up with a lot more payoff. This one was still quite as awesome. I was mostly excited to finish the story of the entity, for them to go down into where the submarine crashed in the first one in Dead Reckoning, and get the resolve of that. However, this movie is really long. I do think I didn't fall asleep fully, but I did nod off, I think, at an important part when they're kind of giving their plans and everything. But it just was a little lackluster, and I feel like, yes, it's called Mission Impossible, but like, kind of everyone's joke is like, but he does complete the missions. But they made it like really, really super, super impossible. Like, everything's down to the last second, last millisecond of time. And then you have Angela Bassett. Oh, I didn't list her. Angela Bassett is in here as the president, and she was amazing. I loved her character. But Ethan Hunt basically wants to go down, find the entity. I can't remember if it was the entity he was talking to that showed him basically what was going to happen, but he has to go and figure out how to either outsmart, I think just basically outsmart. And it kind of reminds me of Harry Potter in the ending of Harry Potter, how he has the Elder Wand, and it's like, well, who is the most trusted to have the Elder Wand? Harry, because he means no ill will with it. Like, he has the most powerful wand. And Harry Potter, it being Harry, he just snaps it in half. He's like, whatevs. But who's the most trustworthy to have the entity, after they captured the entity, to hold on to it with that much power comes great responsibility. Of course, Ethan Hunt. So he does end up having it. Um, I really enjoyed the character development of Paris, played by Palm, her confusing last name, but she's the one who played Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy. I really loved her character arc, and she went from an assassin to in one of the last minutes, one of the most impossible of the possible impossible parts, when Benji is wounded and they're having to capture the entity in this last second, and a bomb's about to go off in 10 seconds, even though it took 30 minutes for the bomb to go off. He's like, "Are you a doctor?" And she's like, "I kill people." You think about an assassin would have to know body parts like blood vessels and stuff like that. So she basically went from being an assassin killing people to now having to save Benji's character. I do wonder, and I should have done some research on this, but the character of Luther, I don't remember him being sick. And then when I was asking my husband in the car, I was like, was he sick? Was he in the hospital? Because he's wearing a hospital gown and he's sleeping next to some machine. And my husband was like, no, he's just on a CPAP machine. No, he definitely was wearing a hospital gown when he gets taken, and Gabriel and them put him in a place next to a bomb, so Ethan has to come and do his famous running to go save him. When was Luther sick? What was Luther sick with? Was he sick with something that was going to kill him anyway? Don't know. Again, all my reviews are spoilers, so with that being said, Luther does pass because, again, he wakes up, I guess, from a deathbed, or from being in a hospital, next to a bomb, and they set that up so Ethan would have to go get him, but he kind of sacrifices himself. He's like, just get out of here, I'll deactivate the bomb, but you have 10 seconds, so even though even though Ethan Hunt ran all the way down there, he has to run all the way back. He does a lot more running in this one. He always has a running scene, but he does a lot of it in this one. And then, so they have to go find the entity. He gets the permission from the president to go do so. However, she can't keep tabs of what he's going to do. And his plan is very, again, specific. Like, he's going to go down to the bottom, find the submarine, use the key from that they collected in Dead Reckoning, use the key to get the little thing to capture the entity, and then he's going to float back up, and his team is going to find him in the last second. I guess that happens. I don't know. I don't know if I just nodded off or if it was just so complex I don't remember. But on top of all that, the submarine starts going off the cliff a little bit. So that sequence was interesting because, he's underwater in the submarine and now it's going upside down. So a lot more dangerous than he expected it to be. So he goes back up. He had to tear the suit apart. Actually, that whole sequence was weird because he had to fly over and then land where the secret, I think, submarine crew who is off the grid, no one should know where they are. He lands in the middle of the ocean where it's freezing cold, and they pop up. That part was kind of scary because you just see people popping up behind him. And yeah, there's the crew of the submarine that no one should know where they are. He is there, and then they're like, one of the girls gives him a suit, and it's like you have to hold your breath because if you try to breathe, your lung will explode. So another impossible factor that he just has to do all this stuff in a crash course submarine lesson. And anyway, he ends up doing that part, getting the entity, using the lock, getting the thing to capture the entity. He goes back up, he convulses, and I love the shot when it shows him going up to the top of the ice, and then it kind of changes to where he's laying on the ice, because of course when you're in water, the scariest thing about drowning or being lost at sea is you never know which way is up and which way is down. So that aspect was really cool cinematically, a real cool visual. But then Haley Atwell, Grace, she finds him, and that was kind of funny because the little Inuit lady is like, I'm gonna take a nap, you just drive my sled out there. It doesn't show her go there, but she finds him. And my one complaint is I don't think Grace and Ethan have any chemistry, like, at all. I think even in the end, when he goes and sees them all again, they all give, like, nodding nods, like, good job, we beat the entity. Good job, we beat the entity. He even looks at her and is just like, yep, we did that. And then they go their separate ways. So I don't think she's technically a love interest, because even though they're in the little cocoon thing together, yeah, she lays on his chest, but that's about it. They don't kiss, they don't do anything romantic. And I don't know, they just seem like co-workers, honestly. I don't know, I won't want co-workers cuddling up to me, but whatever. You know, he's freezing cold in the cold, so whatever, don't know. But I didn't feel their chemistry. And I really miss his last love interest. Okay, Rebecca Ferguson, I missed her in this one, but her character didn't make it from Dead Reckoning because Ethan had to run again to go save her, and he's a little too late. So she wasn't in this one, and I really missed her in there, but I definitely think they had more of a chemistry than Grace. And it's not even my bias against Haley Atwood, because I'm not the biggest fan of her, to be honest. But it's nothing against her. Like, it's that separate. The character Grace and Ethan just didn't have a chemistry, in my opinion. But then we're going to start talking about the other antagonists. We have the entity, and then we have Gabriel. I barely remember Gabriel in Dead Reckoning, but oh my gosh, he was so cartoonish in this one. Very much, I think Haley Atwell, Grace, and him both said something that just was like, I don't know, just lame. I was just like, her delivery sucked at that part, and then his delivery kind of sucked. And actually had my husband and I cracking the fuck up when they're on the plane. Tom Cruise is doing this wild stunt. Ethan's trying to give him the thing because he needs to have it, and I think that's what it was. He's trying to give him something, but Gabriel was like, ho ho ho, I'm this fake little villain, come get me. It was so weird. They're on this airplane chase, and that was a really cool sequence. That was the big sequence. I still preferred the bike off the ramp, and then him going off the ramp. That was so much, like, just gut-wrenching. Like, is he gonna be okay? Is the parachute gonna, like, go off? But talking about parachutes, Gabriel's like, only one of us has a parachute. And then the wind or something, I don't know, he just falls back and, like, busts his head on the helicopter, and just like, so even though that sounds bad, it just was filmed so funny. He's like, only one of us has a parachute, bonk. And he just dies. He just dies. Like, Ethan didn't kill him, the entity didn't get him, the entity I don't even think was working with Gabriel. I don't think. It just was so cartoonish. We just both started cracking up laughing. It's like, whatever, no one needed that antagonist. But I really love the actor. I may say his name wrong, Isaiah Morales. He's a good actor, so I don't know what happened. But overall, oh yeah, and then they tied a lot, which I know is kind of annoying, that they had so many flashbacks of previous films, but I appreciated it because it's been a long time since I watched them, and I wasn't a fan of Mission Impossible back when they were coming out. I just kind of watched them if they were on TV. I didn't go out of my way. I'm realizing something about me. I really didn't watch movies in theaters, especially horror movies, because I'm thinking about with my next review that's going to come out, even though I said that was going to be the next one, it's going to be a long one. That's why Final Destination Bloodlines is not the next one, and it's this one, because technically I watched this one first, and Final Destination Bloodlines is going to be a longer review. But I realized that the first Final Destination I ever saw in theaters was the fourth one. And the first Saw film I saw in theaters was the fifth one, because I didn't watch movies really in the theater, especially horror movies. So I didn't watch many of the Mission Impossibles. In fact, I started with Dead Reckoning, so in theaters. But that's when I started having appreciation for films and all that stuff. Anyway, overall, I really enjoyed this film. Not as much as Dead Reckoning, but it was really good. I don't think you have to watch both of them back to back. Oh, back to the flashbacks. They connected the scene from the first one when, I think it's the first or second, I can't remember. I'll correct myself later. But when he comes down from, the ceiling and escapes, he left his knife. He gets reunited with his knife, and the agent that walked in and noticed he left, and he says, honestly, like, Ethan's like, I'm sorry for all that. He's like, honestly, it was the best thing, because now I had to work all the way out here in, I think, Alaska or something, where they have Inuits, and he met his wife. If that day had never happened, he would have never met his wife. So I was like, that's kind of cute. That's a cute tie-in, kind of an unnecessary tie-in. And a lot of people don't like the flashbacks, but I like them. I thought they were nice. Overall, I really like this film. I could see me watching it again, definitely with some breaks. How I didn't, I do think I fell asleep. I was going to say how I didn't fall asleep. I didn't actually, conk out, but overall, it was really good. Okay, I just watched my review for Dead Reckoning to see what I gave it. A C minus. I gave it a C minus. I think it deserves a B plus. Dead Reckoning, I'm changing it right now because this one gets a C. The Final Reckoning. I think this is supposed to be the last one of Mission Impossible. Who knows? They kind of did leave it open-ended because, again, kind of like the elderly one in Harry Potter, Ethan has the entity in the palm of his hand. But unlike Harry Potter, he did not break the entity. And so I don't think it would take much for another Gabriel or someone who finds out he has it to want to come after him, open it, and start the whole ending of time all over again, to where we have to have another impossible mission to accomplish. Also, after rewatching my review for Dead Reckoning, and not that really hot pink hair, guys, I'm kind of over the black. I really am. I think it's healthy. I need to change my hair color again. And the hot pink was really pretty. Who knows? Perhaps. Anyway, it's not about that. It's about the film. Did you guys see Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, the final chapter? If you liked it, please comment down below what you liked, what you didn't like. How would you rate it in the franchise? Do you think it was a good entry for a wrap-up of this franchise? Do you think there'll be more? And if you like this video and this review, please like, comment, and subscribe. I definitely have a couple more films that I've already seen, and then I have so many more I'm actually excited to see. Again, not seeing the trailers has been making the viewing experience a lot more enjoyable for me. So stay tuned. There are definitely more film reviews coming out later. Thanks, guys. Bye.